All right, so we are live now. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Arun Gupta, and this is the virtual Devrel. On this channel, we talk about all the issues, concerns, comments, design patterns, anti-patterns, anything to do with Devrel. So whether you are a developer advocate, developer evangelist, technology evangelist, community manager, we bring all sorts of people on this channel to hear how they are doing it, and what is the unique thing about their aspect. Today I'm particularly very excited to bring Doris Chen. She's a very long time friend and one of the very first evangelists that I ever worked with back at Sun Microsystems. Hello, Doris.
Hi, Arun.
How are you?
Good to be here.
Absolutely, we are very excited to have you here. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, actually, I was gonna save it for the presentation, but that's that's fine. I am a technology evangelist or developer evangelist, whatever you want to call, at Microsoft. So I have been with Microsoft for a little over 6 years, and basically I'm a web person. And before that, I have been with, like you mentioned, the Sun Microsystems for about 10 years as a Java evangelist. And yes, I have been evangelist for almost 16 years, more than 16 years. So it's great to be here. I'd like to share things I learned and things I still have some questions or things I still have some concerns with the crowd.
Yeah. So I think you are really one of the very first evangelists. I know you talk to a lot of people and they say, "Oh, I've been an evangelist for 20 years now." But this term hasn't been really that new. And I know I can vouch for it because you and I have presented at several events around the world. So
Right.
you truly, the title was Java Evangelist, and Sun kind of led the way in that. So I think I'm very excited to have you here. So what we'll do at this time, basically, you can share the screen,
Okay.
and we will roll with it. And if attendees have question, they can ask the question using #Devrel tag on Twitter, and I'll be live monitoring it.
Okay. And just let me know if there's some real-time question because I wouldn't be able to see it.
Okay.
Okay, see, let me know if you could see the screen.
I can.
Great. All right, let's get started. Okay, so welcome everybody. Again, I'm Doris Chen, and this is my email address, doris.chen, standard Microsoft format at Microsoft.com. And my Twitter is Doris T. Chen. Make sure there's if you want to send some message to me, make sure there's a T in the middle. Otherwise, you won't be able to reach me. And I'm very happy to talk about evangelism at Microsoft. So this is a little bit more formal intro. So meet Doris. So again, I've been with Microsoft for about 6 years, and I'm always a web person. I'm focusing on all kind of web technologies, especially after joining Microsoft. My focus is on HTML5, JavaScript, scripting language, as well as JavaScript frameworks like Angular, JS, and so on. You could also take a look at my blog. This is my blog address. And also starting a couple of years ago, I started to post my video on the Channel 9. Channel 9 is Microsoft kind of like a video learning center. There are all kinds of talks from, all the great speakers from Microsoft, as well as from the community and MVPs. And I've talked about that, what I mean MVPs. So I do speak quite a lot of conference, and my focus is always really on the open source technology. So I do speak on a lot of Arati conference, including OSCON, Front, and other. DevNexus is actually a more like a Java focused conference, and HTML5. And again, obviously, with my 10 years at a Sun Microsystem, I do travel all over the world to speak to different user groups. And we actually, Arun and I, we speak a lot at what we call Sun Tech Days, which is more like a mini Java 1 in different cities of the world. And it's been great to work with Java community for almost 10 years. And then before that, I spent quite a few years in school, trying to get my degree. I went to UCLA and have a computer engineering degree, and then more focused on medical informatics. So there's obviously you probably have a lot of questions about my background, and we could talk offline. For today, I want to focus on the evangelism. So like we talk about, I'm basically, I believe in open source. I've been doing a lot of technology wise talk, focus on open source project and open source technology. So you may have different view about evangelism, but I think there might be something, the very first thing, I think I interpret it different from the others is evangelism. What is evangelism? Does it say evangelism is actually marketing, right? So if you look into a lot of other talks or other, evangelism, they may tell you, yes, evangelism is marketing, but I have to disagree. I believe evangelism actually, for me, as a technology evangelist, I do a lot of, I talk about technology. So it is, obviously you would say, but as an end result, there's some marketing aspect in it. But the thing is, my goal here is I want to try to reach 100% of talk about technology. And then, because if you ever think about it, put a marketing pitch or whatever into your talk, a lot of times you really turn audience away. People really think, this is another marketing pitch. And this is not something I would like to hear. Right. So I still remember as a very first talk I did represent Microsoft in a web conference. The very first feedback they give to me is, this is great. This is a technical talk. It is not another marketing pitch. And then, for me, it is, as a Java evangelist for so many years, it's very natural for me to talk about technology and really focus on technology, right? And then obviously you would say, okay, how about your product? How about your platform? How about your tools? So talk about technology first. And then if you want to do demo, what I usually do is probably choose a preferred tool. It happened to be the tool, say in this case, I'm using Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code quite a lot. So I'm using that to do my demo and use a platform, maybe some other product to do the demo. But then I still think technology is very, very important to talk about. And this is how you could really attract people to listen to your talk, to pay attention to you. So this is first thing I think might be different from a lot of people think about evangelism. Okay, so and the next thing is, obviously you probably see this before, but let me just sort of like readdress that again. It is actually, everybody has a little bit maybe interpretation, but content, communication, and community, these are really the three big C's. They are very, very important. I would say it doesn't matter if I'm with, when I was a Java evangelist or when I'm evangelist at Microsoft now, I still think these three things are the key piece. So content, like I talked about that before, it has to be interesting, has to be fully engaged with the audience. It has to be fun, right? So a natural choice for me is talk about technology, new technology, right? So that emerging technology, so that you could actually attract more people, make your content very interesting. Second thing about that is communication. So how you tell the stories, right? So for me, I think you really have to really enjoy what you're talking about. You really have to be passionate about what you're talking about. Then you will be able to tell real stories. So in other words, if there's something you're not even convinced, you don't really feel this is a good thing or fun thing to talk about, you wouldn't be passionate about it, right? So I don't think you could do a good job. So you really have to believe in that technology, and you have to be really, really passionate about that and share people your stories. Right, because a lot of times we probably say, if I just talk about that technology, if I just go over the API, it's kind of dry, right? You won't be able to get a lot of people to follow you or to pay attention to you, right? So you have to sort of find out your aspect or your story to tell, and you will actually show people in such a way that people feel, I could use technology in such a way, this is all about this technology. How easy it is. So you will actually motivate people to try that particular technology and to have a lot of fun with that. So on the other hand, I think communication, the other thing is you will try to make the developer's life quite a bit easier, right? You try to interpret something very complex into something simple and easy to get started with. So this is also your job, to tell a story to motivate people to get started. So the other piece is obviously community engagement. And we tell the story, and then what? Right. So obviously there's multiple ways you could share the story, right? You could I would talk about in more detail. You could talk to the local meetups. You could talk to local community. You could talk to student events. You could talk to a hackathon. You could present a third-party conference. So you really have to share that to the community. And at the same time, it is very, very important, especially you go for like a, in-person event, face-to-face kind of event. You want to collect the feedback, right? You want to see how people feel about your particular subject, your technology. What is the feedback? Especially bad feedback, I think negative feedback, that would be a good thing to have, right? And then you will figure out, how we could actually invite a community to participate to make it even better, right? So you could probably take the feedback and report to your product team. But then the other thing is, if you can, right? And let's see if we could post it on things like a GitHub to make it an open source project. So everybody can contribute to make it even better. So we could chat about that in more detail. But basically, these are the things, I think it's very important, three things to be an evangelist. So I think you probably have different interpretation. You probably have some questions. You probably could ask me now, or we could have saved it towards the end. Okay, keep it going. Okay, cool. So let's talk about community evangelism, because I think this is something I have been doing quite a lot since I joined Microsoft. When I was Java evangelist at the Sun, I actually, because I believe the whole Java team is less than 20 people, and we travel all over the world. Like I said before, we did some mini Java one kind of type of thing, and then we do also go for university and some local meetup, even some custom meetings if we have time, because everybody's travel schedule is pretty tight. But then, in a way, I don't really think I am that involved in the community evangelism, meaning go for the meetups, go for the local events. So this is something I've been doing quite a lot after joining Microsoft, and I like to share with you some of the experience I have. And I think, it is actually really, really important to be an evangelist, to engage with your local community, and then to really, understand their concern and then make friends. So first of all, you need to build up a relationship. I will share with you the experience I had when I first started at Microsoft. So like I said, as a Java evangelist, I didn't really go to the meetup that much. Maybe I only go to, say, the Java user group meetup, right? But, after I joined Microsoft, my focus area is more focused on HTML5, JavaScript, and web technology. So basically, I'm actually trying to engage with more meetups, such as JavaScript and HTML5 related. So meetup.com is really your friend. I really start to do a good search, a research on that site to find out. First, you enter the keyword, and then you probably will see the top, say, 10 most active meetups in your area. Now, the number of the meetup of that particular meetup is good. However, the other thing you really have to look into is how active the meetup is. Because a lot of time you see, that meetup has like over 5,000 people, right? It's great. But if you look into the whole year, right, they might only meet twice a year. So that's probably not a very good meetup to engage closely. I would pick some meetup maybe did not have that many people, but at the same time, they almost meet every month. right? So roughly, I would say, you look into a meetup like around 100 people, 50 to 100 people. That would be a pretty good size. And then when you first started, you really have to be persistent because you don't know anybody yet, right? It's really a new meetup for you. So how could you make your friends there? By starting with you attend there every single time as much as you can. Right, I'm sure you have all kind of conflict, especially it's at a nighttime or weekend, right? It is hard to try to be there every time, but try your best because you really have to be there. There's no like a shortcut, right? You have to be there and then really be familiar with the organizer, make friends with all the meetup attendees, and listen to what they're talking about. In other words, you really have to know where your audience is. What is their interest? What will be a hot topic? Why people are really into that, right? So this is really something, I would say if you want to start something new, you want to actually engage with a new community, just be there every time. That's first step. Second thing is you really have to be honest. I think one thing, I'm really proud of to be evangelist for 16 years is I never really lied to anybody. We all have our own technology to promote, to evangelize, but at the same time, I think you also have to be honest. You should not really, lie to anybody just for a particular purpose or for particular matrix or whatever, because you're going to actually pay for that. Be honest is very, very important. Be sincere, right? So you could earn people's trust that way, especially at a new community. This is very important. And the second thing is you have to be a good listener, because you just have to be aware. Not everything from your company or from the things you want to evangelize, everybody would love it, right? It's ideal world, you would love to have that situation, but a lot of times maybe not. Right? People maybe have some concern about a particular browser, right? They may just hate that browser. They don't like it. They have a lot of complaint. Be a good listener. Be open-minded. Don't be defensive. Listen to what the problems might be. Listen to how you could actually help them to make it better or to resolve the problems for them, right? And then this is basically why you are there for, right? Be approachable. People could find you, right? Leave them your contact information. Invite them to your office or meet in anywhere like a Starbucks to say, if you have some problem, I could have set up a private office hour with you, right? Let's sort of look into the issues. Let's go over that. Let's try to resolve that. So this is really very important to build up your relationship, especially in a new community. And afterwards, you will actually have more and more friends. And if you want to approach another meetup, you actually have some friends there. So they actually will recommend you to that particular meetup, and things will be quite a lot easier. So first thing is build a relationship, very important. Second thing is obviously after you be there a few times and you start to understand a lot better, then you should offer something of value. So this could start at your very first meetup, right? So you could offer to help with your technology expertise, right? So you could help to answer the questions, clarify the things, especially if the technology an issue is actually from your company or your product or your platform, right? This is something you could definitely contribute. And then you could start to, doing some lightning talk, right? If it's a brand new technology, people never heard about that. And it's not, you don't really have a really, say, totally solid website yet. There's no, a lot of sample code or whatsoever. Could start with a lightning talk. Always talk about that. And the people would be, I think a lightning talk is more informal. And then you could actually request at the very last minute at a meetup. So most likely the meetup organizer will allow you to do that. And then you could actually, once they like the subject you're talking about, you could offer to give a talk or provide a workshop for them, right? So this is something, from your, your expertise, will be able to actually offer to do a good job. And then obviously at the same time is you could also, by starting use what you already have. For example, if you know there's some free training, community events, some opportunities, and it's definitely relate to the subject that for that meetup, you should just share with the community, invite them. For example, Microsoft has a lot of first party events, right? And then Microsoft sometimes also do a lot of the joint event with the community, with a meetup. So you probably should let the community, the meetup know there's a lot of learning opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity to interact with people from Microsoft or other meetup community. So these will be good things to announce. And obviously, it's always good at a beginning of the few meetups. If you have some swags, you have some, I don't know, it has to be really big. Could it start with something as simple as some pens or, some maybe T-shirts, some bags or whatever swags you have. And it's always good to, make some friends. And then if you think it's possible, then try to, if the meetup, they may not have a space, a venue to meet. If you can, maybe offer the sponsorship, give them venue, or if you have some extra money, maybe sponsor the food. But it's all optional. It's really, basically it's part of building a relationship, and then just sort of like shows you really care about that meetup and you want to be their friend. But I think for me, the most important thing is offer the technical expertise for that meetup, and rather than give them all the sponsorships and swags. But swags and sponsorship definitely help. Okay, so for example, Microsoft actually just started. I wouldn't say just started. Actually started last year. So it's called a Microsoft Reactor Space. It's located in San Francisco. If you guys have been Moscone Center, if you're local, it's actually right across street of Moscone Center. And it's basically a free space for any community meetups and startups to use. And it also serves as a startup incubator. So if your logo, say, if you feel you have some community event, you would like to look into, you want to use a space, either let me know, or you could actually look into use that URL, microsoftreact.com, look into the calendar, check the availability, you could request it. It's most likely we do both, most likely it's a weekdays event from Monday to Friday, as well as a night event. And if you really have to do it at a weekend, it's kind of case by case. So this is something, because we've been getting a lot of requests from Microsoft and say, I want some space, and then it's really hard to get into the Microsoft office in San Francisco because of all the security reasons. So that's why we opened a community space there, so that we could actually accommodate more requests from the community. And if you have such requests, you could take advantage of that. So. And then since I start talking about a Microsoft community space, probably it would be natural for me to get onto the Microsoft evangelism part. So let me just briefly talk about the structure of the evangelism team. You probably see so many different evangelists all over the world from Microsoft. But basically, they belong to two big groups. One is from corporate. Corporate team is more focused on, is basically physically more in the Redmond area, but could be in some other area as well. So that's evangelism team. They're more close to the product team because Redmond has a lot of development team there. So they could communicate with them a little easier. And then these people, they are more doing more like a tightly relate to different product, different like tools and so on. And then field team, I'm one of the field team evangelists. Field team is basically every single, I wouldn't say every single country, but for US, Canada, North America, South America, APAC, Europe, most of major regions, we all have field team, which is called a field evangelism team. And this is global wise. So you may talk to a corporate team, which is more focused on more like a maybe product part of team, that aspect. And the field team is like me, right? I'm one of the evangelists at the field team, and we're doing, things which I'll talk about next, which is we belong to DX, Develop Experience, stands for, if you heard somebody call DX, that's actually, it represents as a Microsoft Evangelism team. And then they serve 3 different aspects. I will start with the first one, audience. Audience team is where I belong to. I belong to audience team. So my main focus is try to engage with developers at the communities, startups, as well as schools with students. And there's another type of evangelist, which is called RSV. They are more focused with Microsoft partners, accounts, and customers. And then there's a third one, which is, it's a relatively small team. They're more focused on the tools, platform, especially Microsoft tools like Visual Studios, all kinds of tools, right? Office. But all these 3 teams, I really work together. For example, I would say audience team, where I belong to, is more doing a little breadth evangelism, right? So we do, all kind of technology, and then we cover different areas, and we reach more developers through community startups and students. ISV is a little more focused. They have their accounts, partners, and customers to work with. So they are a little bit more in depth in a way. So, but we work together in a sense that if ISV team, they need some people to do a more generic kind of evangelism on a particular area, then they will invite us. So probably for very first few meetings, we talk to their partners, customers, and then give them a basic understanding. And then once they still have some real life problem, and then they will check with ISV evangelist to see if there's particular issue or particular really tough problem they need to resolve, and then ISV evangelists will help them further. Sometimes they even engage with the product team, say if there's a bug or things like that. And obviously, tools and the platform, that's kind of part of evangelism as well. So 3 different groups, we all work together. So I'm probably the one I'm most familiar with audience team. So I probably will talk more about the audience team. So people usually say, what does an technology evangelist do, right? So so here's a few things we do. We constantly have to learn. We have to learn new technology. We have to keep update with all the new technology. For example, you give a talk maybe a couple months ago, half a year ago, and then API, a lot of things has been changed, right? There's a couple of new release afterwards. So you have to keep on updating your content. You keep on learning, and there's always a lot of new things coming into every year. So this is really, I would say, being evangelist, one big thing is we're very lucky. We always learn new stuff, new technology. So that's always good. So we spend quite a lot of time doing that. The other things, obviously, we write, right? We write articles, blogs. Some people even write some technical books, right? And we also talk, right? Talk to different meetups, third-party conference, student event, community event, and so on, right? So and also we do a lot of email, right? Obviously, there's a lot of email to answer. We spend a lot of time to do tweets. As well as we spend quite a bit of time to answer questions on the forum, like, for example, Stack Overflow. And you probably will pick your expertise, right? Based on those expertise, you give the answer. And we also do video recording. We do quite a bit of podcast as well, right? So, and then I would say the other big part of that is engage with the community. We spend a lot of time with the community meetups, third-party conference. We participate or supported at a different kind of hackathons. Could it be student level? Could it be more professional developer level? And we also engage with university students quite a bit. Depends on the demand. A lot of times we work with the professors, work with MSPs, that's Microsoft Student Partners. And then if they need us to give some talk or to support, we will be there. And then the other type of engagement is influencers. So there are many different influencers. Influencers could be, say, MVPs, That stands for Microsoft Variable Professional. I'm sure every company, they all have those important people. And then for me, there's also a lot of other influencers. For example, community, right? Organizers, influencers in a particular technical area, right? So these are all could be your influencers. And I try to work with them either online or through, if it's local, then we try to meet in person and try to, basically it's a communication, right? You also build a relationship. You try to understand, what they're working on, try to collect some feedback for particular technology from your company or your product, right? And then obviously, try to make friends. And maybe there's a lot of clarification, there's a lot of misconception. And this is a time that you actually, that would be a good time, because a lot of times it's much better let the influencers to speak on that rather than you to directly get involved. I feel it just makes more sense for some other people understand the stuff and then try to clarify that for you and on behalf of your technology. The other part is we just started, just recent years is try to contribute to the open source projects. And this is tough to do as an evangelist. If you look at all the things we have to do, but but sometimes it's possible. For example, I did a JavaScript performance tuning course, and then at the same time, I actually create some projects on the GitHub. And then later on, I found it's very nice because people access that project and people ask me questions and could turn into a total open source project, and people could actually contribute to their performance tips and things like that. So this is totally doable. And then we are really encouraged to participate at different open source projects. And of course, the other part is communicate with some internal organization, even your peers, right? Even evangelists, same evangelists at a corporate level, at a different geo. We talk about our old product team, right? That's actually part, because sometimes you get some questions from the community. You don't really have a good answer. Or sometimes people find some bugs, right? And you want to find your channel to file and to share that particular bugs or some feedback with the product team. Okay, so just share with you what is my typical day. What does my typical day look like? So in the morning, obviously, first thing is checking with some of the social media. So there's any things I need to answer, I need to update and answer the emails, right? From, just developers I met at a different events, influencers, could be some people from startup has some questions, could be from a student or customer. So basically answer a lot of their questions and clarify or connect to them with the right people so that they could keep on going with them. And then the other things I not every day, but I do quite often is check if there's any conference. I should look into, I should engage, I should have submitted my proposals, articles, I should have really sort of work on. This is also, for me, it's actually very good because I get to see a lot of new industry trend. I get to see what people are interested in, what kind of conference are there. And you could see some speakers, some of them, maybe you know them already. You could see some new speakers, right? You could think of, look into like what subject they're trying to talk about, and think about if you could have submitted something, right? And also I reserve, at least 2 hours every day to do R&D. I call research and development. This including, I work on the open source project on GitHub, including doing the blog, developing my presentation, my demo, or doing some video recording. So I could have posted it on say Channel 9 or YouTube afterwards. And if there is a particular meetup, like say tonight, there is a meetup for AngularJS in Mountain View, and I see there's a lot of interesting talks there, and I will try to participate. And so for the meetup, I'm not saying every night you have to go for a meetup, but you probably should identify what would be your tier 1 meetups, meaning you go there every month. What would be your tier 2 meetups? Meaning you may go there once a quarter, depends on your availability, depends on how interesting the topics are. And then these are the things, normally you do it at night. And sometimes I did mention, you may have some hackathon during the weekend, right? So we do, like at Microsoft, we support a lot of hackathon, especially student hackathon from, say, Stanford or Berkeley, all kind of, what we call trade hacks or Cal hacks, or we even go for some high school hackathons, right, as well. So we do a lot of student events and the community events. So it's very fun. And sometimes we also go for a particular API related hackathon. For example, when we start to see there is some new API, say from Bing or from some other new technology like a Cortana, for example, right? We see we could actually promote that particular API for a particular hackathon. And that's a time we either could participate or we provided some on-site technical support. So we do that as well. So basically, yes, I do feel compared as a Java evangelist at Sun and a Microsoft evangelist, I do wear multiple hats at a Microsoft, and I do a lot of things. And one very subtle difference here is, it seems like when I'm a Java evangelist at Sun, my stage is already there. I see there's a lot of, say, there's a event manager will feed me the event, say, Doris, go there, give a talk on this, right? So I see like my schedule full with a request. I do a lot of those things. But since I started with Microsoft, I feel there's in addition to all the speaking engagement requests, I also need to explore more opportunities in the community and submit a proposal for the third party conference and basically do more talking. So basically, you sort of like set up your own schedule, you set up your own stage, you set up your own speaking engagement. So this is actually quite a different from my previous evangelism life. But this is actually good because that way you actually know the local community much better. You actually make more friends that way. All right, so a few things at Microsoft which could help us to do evangelism. The first one is called MVP. This is really something, it stands for Microsoft Valuable Professional. So every year we actually will have nominated a few MVPs among the developer community. They represent really important people, or they really know that particular area really well. So there's Windows, there's Azure, there's web, there's a lot of area like IoT, machine learning. There's a lot of things, we could nominate MVPs. And then there's also, for every region, there's also a couple of regional directors, right? So all those regional directors, MVPs, they really help us. For example, we may not be able to go for every single meetup or a lot of other community events, but we could count on our MVPs to give a talk, to engage, and to collect feedback from them. So really, MVPs really help us to, have better outreach and meet more people. That's from the developer community. The other part is called MSP, stands for Microsoft Student Partners. Those are really for students, for all the schools. So every year, we accept application from different schools, and we will pick at least one or two students from that school. They will be Microsoft student partner, and we will give them training. We give them some content to get started with, and then they will engage with professors, their fellow classmates, and then they will actually have plan some monthly event, and sometimes they need our support. Then evangelists like us, we go to the school and we give a talk, or we'll help a particular area. So, and the MSP really help us to engage with the schools and engage with more students. And for a lot of things, for example, logistical planning, they really know the school much better, because if we go for a school, we probably need to find out where should we do the talk, how should we rent a venue, right? And then what's the cost? How about the food ordering, all those things. But if you have an MSP in that school, things will be so much easier because they know everything, and that they will actually do it in the most economical way. So that's really good. And plus, as a reward, MSP student, they actually, getting the really, all the updated technology from Microsoft. So they actually learn a lot. They get more exposure to the industry, right? Rather than just, like a ordinary student, do all the homeworks. They actually have much better engagement with industry. industry. So that's something they really like. So that's why every year we have a lot of student candidates to apply for MSP. And the other part is this is not a really sort of like MVP or MSP sort of individual, but it's more like a startup kind of offering. It's called BitSpark. BitSpark is really Microsoft offering for most of the startups that qualify, especially in Silicon Valley. It is very important. So the program is basically say, if you are a registered startup, less than 5 years, make less than $100 million a year, you'll qualify. So you would assume most startups would be qualified. And then if they're interested to use Microsoft technology, Microsoft will offer them 3 years free software on any Microsoft software for free for 3 years. Plus, if they would like to try the cloud, for example, Azure, they could use Azure up to $150 a month. So really, this particular program really helps startup to really, try our product, try our tools, try our crowd, and then really help them to sort of like start to build things on top of that. At the same time, being evangelist, we probably just approach them, right? When they have issues or technical difficulties, then we try to help them to resolve them. And after 3 years, people usually say, what's going to happen? No questions asked. They got to keep whatever software they have for that 3 years, right? But afterwards, we'll assume the startup is taking, doing well so that you could probably pay for some of the software or some of the tools, right? But even though you decide not to use that, that's fine. It is actually a pretty relaxed program. It's not like we're going to chasing after them or something like that. So a lot of startups are really participating in the BitSpark program. So there are more, programs and offering in Microsoft, but for me, I actually, leverage these 3 programs quite a lot when I'm doing evangelism. So I think the last part I'd like to share about is effective evangelism. Now, no matter what, it's all, people always say, we need to measure, right? It is obviously very, very hard to measure the effectiveness of doing evangelism. For one thing, I usually say, how would you measure innovations? Because there is a big part of doing evangelism is encourage innovation, right? So it is really hard to measure. I totally agree. So I could just share with you a few things, I have seen, it may not be the, sort of best way to do. I'm still exploring and like to get some feedback how to really measure that. So how to measure? Obviously, could it be number driven? A lot of time people do by number, right? But obviously, you may argue it may not be a good reflection of overall effectiveness. That's totally true. But then at least number sometimes could give you some indication about how you are doing, right? So obviously, we're not really looking for just the quantity. We're looking for the quality, right? So, but the number at least to give you, say, for example, we measure unique visitors to your blogs, to a particular blog posting, to a particular article, to a particular video posting, right? At least you know how many unique viewers you have. And then next thing, obviously, you could measure by using different tools is we try to see, how long people stay in your blog or stay in your video posting, right? That's another thing. And then obviously a number of attendees to your event, to your presentation, that's also important because you probably will see if the topic is well received by the attendees. And you could see if people stay until the very end of your presentation or people stay until the very end of your event. So those all kind of like tell you something. A lot of conference, they offer the rating, right? Like most of the OSCON conference, like O'Reilly conference, they do rating. It's scary, right? When you see people put a rating, try to rate your session, it's scary, but it's actually a good thing, right? You see a rating as well as people put some comments. These are really valuable. And obviously, people could measure from how many followers are on your Twitter account, right, or some other social media. They could see if you're influencer enough, to really getting more and more people to follow you. So these are more like sort of like from the number perspective. They will give you something, not everything. The other part we've been trying to do quite a bit is the survey. So we do different kind of survey. For example, we go to a meetup. We would be there like for a year or 2 years. then we try to conduct a community survey from that meetup. Obviously, there's a lot of work, right? You have to really getting approval from the meetup organizer. You have to make sure people will participate in your survey, right? So, but you could get some true opinion, right? Because basically it's all anonymous. I mean, no, they don't leave any name or any information. You want to see how your how well your talk goes, or how people appreciate your presence at this particular meetup, or how people think about Microsoft in general, things like that. And this is more the community sort of driven survey. The other type of survey is obviously more focused survey. It's something like if you have a first party event, or if you have a joint event with the community, you could actually do a survey based on that, based on the people who participate. So this could be asking more focused questions about a particular technology, about a particular tools, about a particular, say, platform. So all those things, a survey, I think works very well. And we actually do quite a bit at Microsoft. And obviously, the other way is more, just getting some feedback from Twitter, from social media, from email. People tell you, if your talk has changed their life, or something like if they don't like your talk at all, or if they don't like particular things, all those things is actually, it would be good to collect feedback, to take a quick look. So, I think that's about it. Any questions so far?
All right. There is echo.
Okay.
Okay, that's better.
I stopped hearing. Yeah.
No, this is fantastic, actually. This is really good. I got a very good idea of how evangelism is done at Microsoft. Particularly, I was the usual impression of Microsoft up until a few years ago has been it's been a closed source company. And looking at you particularly, I'm seeing you're only talking about open source. So that's all. So that's a big change from coming from Microsoft perspective.
I think yes. When I joined Microsoft, and I think the reason they hire me is because my open source background. I think there's a lot of great evangelists at Microsoft already, but at that particular time, because I'm based in Silicon Valley, right? I'm based in Mountain View. I know, like they know that I will have to meet a lot of what we call competing space community, right? And I think, with my background and with the technology, the web space, I would be focusing on, I can make a lot of friends, and I could make some difference. And that's 6 years ago. So now things getting so much better because there's a huge change at Microsoft. So Microsoft is really embracing all kind of open source technology. If you look at our Azure platform, basically, we embrace all open source project running on Azure, just an example. So I feel like, I'm making more and more friends, and people understand Microsoft quite a bit better compared to 6 years ago.
I agree, and friends are always good. The more friends you have, the better it is. So I completely agree. Now, with Microsoft, Microsoft is a product-focused company. With them pitching so much to open source, what does it give them?
So everything, if you talk about it, just like even starting with as a Java evangelist, I think you have your product, you have your tools, you have your platform, but then the core thing here is the technology. Because you want to persuade developer to use your platform. The number one thing here is you try to use technology, try to use the coolness, try to really something, let's say really say productive or something really easy. You have to attract them first. So technology is the number one thing, regardless of your product, right? You talk about what's the technology involved in your platform first. And then you say, look, I'm using this tool, right? I'm using this platform. Look, things could be so much easier. So this is really, I think my approach, and as well as a lot of evangelists at Microsoft are doing that. Because otherwise it would just sound like a marketing pitch.
Right.
Just like, another marketing pitch. I don't need that anymore. I could read it well, right? Yeah. So basically that's a big difference,
Agree. No, absolutely agree. And then you talked about some wonderful programs like Biz Spark, MVP and MSP. MVP is definitely a fairly well-known program. I have quite a few friends who are MVPs. Now, can any student apply for MSP?
Any student could apply for MSP. And then we actually not even restrict to only CS students, although CS students would be a pretty natural choice. And basically, we look at their background, expertise, their leadership skill set, and also their willingness, their passion, to help Microsoft or to do the job. So
Right.
any student could, I would probably say, starting from second year would be a little easier because first year you just get into school, you don't know that well.
Right.
But second year is actually will be, I would highly recommend students to apply for MSP program.
Gotcha.
They also get some compensation as well.
Oh, nice. So money is a good incentive, particularly being a student.
Not enough to earn a living, but some compensation, some ice cream money.
No, of course, why not? I mean, as a student, any money is good money. Yeah. So I really like the way you explain the metrics and the goals, and there is always that burning discussion in the Devrel community. How do we measure what is effective evangelism and stuff like that?
Right.
So I'm glad you put a stake in the ground for that. Now, my question to you really is, you have defined sort of how you measure it, but do you know, so let's say you have reached a goal where you wanted the blog reads to be 5,000 unique reads.
Sure.
Okay, let's say you have reached that particular one. Do you strive to increase that read? Okay, now my basic goal is 5,000. Now I'm going to take it to 7,000, then 10,000, then 11,000.
Okay, so I think we don't really have a exactly fixed number. Okay, like a baseline is probably reasonable, let's say, right? Doesn't have to be like 5,000. But then every time, if you blog very often, if your posting has high technical content, and if your content is attractive enough, and it's very natural, you will grow the number by 10%, let's say, every month by month. And towards the end, you will be surprised to see how many readers you could achieve. But it's really a natural growth. It's very organic. I think, yes, it makes sense at the beginning. You do promotion, like you tweet a lot for your blog content. You put it on, say, Facebook, LinkedIn. You use social media to promote. But after a while, if you have some good posting, and then what happened is, there's people alone like you are already well known. Maybe you feel like that blog, and you make a reference to that. And then everybody start to pay attention to that blogger. And that way you could actually really increase your blog, getting more traffic. And it's a very organic kind of a process. And I would do not set a high number for yourself, because the whole thing to do blogging, to do all the other things is having some fun, is being passionate. Once you set up some number, then it's like you just work for that number, right? You don't want to be a slave for those numbers. That doesn't make any sense. At least for me, it won't work. It won't motivate me.
Well, I think there is, passion is, as you said very rightly, in terms of the 3 C's, passion is certainly one of the key components of evangelism. And if you lose the passion, and if you're working like a machinery in terms of a lead gen, then you sort of become a marketing team. So, you'd rather be in marketing as opposed to being Devrel.
Right, exactly. That's why at the very first beginning, I know a lot of people think evangelism is marketing, but I really disagree, because for me, I feel if evangelism is a marketing, I wouldn't be able to do it for 16 years. I don't know if I could do it for 16 days.
Yeah.
So, really, for me, it has to be. For me, is a technology really excites me. It's really make me exciting, right? Because I asked myself many times why I stay in the same profession for 16 years. 16 years is a long time, right? So why I'm still there, right? So people say, "Oh, you're still evangelism. You're still doing evangelism." Yes, because for me at least, is because all the cool technology, all the new things I could see every year. I could learn every year. I could get my hands dirty every year. This really keep me going. So, but I think technology is the number one important thing, at least for my evangelism life.
Agreed, completely agree. Now, do you think this is a good profession for kids passing out of college and getting into a DevRel job?
Good question. I would say yes or no. It depends on your team environment. If you have a pretty big evangelism team, meaning they could get a lot of mentoring, they could have getting a lot of help, meaning there's some people to help them to get started with. It is absolutely one of the greatest job for any new grad. For example, I would say another program Microsoft has is called MACH program. They hire all the talented kids from top schools. And then within a first year, second year, there is a particular personnel to sort of train them. They go through different departments. They go through evangelism team. They go through some product team. They go through rotation and to get some ideas. So I think if it's your, if there's a team, there's an environment, there's some people to help you, grow, I think it's a great job. But if I would say if it's a relatively small team, you might be the number 2 people in the team. I mean, you want, put it this way, you're not going to get much help. Then it's probably doesn't make sense. I would say probably goes through typical software development cycle, getting some exposure and learn something, understand industry much better, then go back as a develop evangelist. That would be good. Because for one thing is you're talking to those professional developers, right? You have to understand their language. You have to understand their concern. If you're so new, and then you probably wouldn't be able to really understand or really appreciate what they're asking.
Right. No, I understand. Well, I mean, if you have the, and more importantly, you need those writing skills, you need those video skills, you need those presentation skills. You may not have those. And I'm not saying it's a general blanket statement. Some of those kids are really smart and they're like out of the box and bam, they're ready to go roll on. If you have those skills, so I think it's going to be awesome that way, because then you get to travel the world and you get to meet the leaders. But if you don't, and if you are in a smaller team, then you don't understand how evangelism is done, then you're going to be stuck. So I think you would give a very nice path in that sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is a really fun job, like not to mention the travel all over the world. And, I actually, if you look at anybody's career, I think everybody kind of like evangelist, right? You do development, and then at the same time, you would like to share the word, what you do, right?
Right.
Like you're doing evangelist kind of job every day. It's just like we're maybe more focused on a particular area. We're doing more talking, right? But if you just think about any new grad or whatever, a professional, they started at their own job. They could have just, if they want to be evangelists, there's a lot of opportunity, right? They could have just started with.
Right. I understand. Okay, excellent. Well, let me see if there are any other questions on the Twitter stream. So I'm going to go here, and I thought I had a tab open, but let me fire it up. So if I say #Devrel, let's see, we don't have any other questions here. And if I look at my notifications, so one of the Jade Flan, is a Twitter follower, he's saying number of committers to your GitHub projects is definitely a good measure. So I agree. And there are lots of different numbers.
Yes.
And Stanley, he made a comment earlier on saying, should Devrel be part of marketing? And I said that depends if the Devrel carries a financial budget. So I think if you do have a budget of your own, I mean, like in Couchbase, we have a developer advocacy team. We are not part of marketing. We work very closely with the marketing team, literally lockstep. We talk several times a day. We literally sit next to each other now, but we do have our own budget. So I think it really depends. I agree in terms of the financial budget. It really gives you that independence. So Doris, this has been fantastic. I think I learned a lot about how evangelism is done at Microsoft, and I hope others will too. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care, Doris. Bye-bye.
Bye.